Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Mums at Work with me, Raghad.
And me, Rawa.
Where today we'll be talking about being organised.
Raghad, what is being organised?
I mean, being organised can mean a lot of things, but personally I feel like being organised starts off in the mind.
Yes.
Do you agree?
I do, 100%, yeah. Clean mind, clean everything follows after that, doesn't it?
Yeah, when you have, a mindset or everything is organised in your mind, everything seems to fall in place, I guess.
Yeah.
And no matter how organised your surroundings are, if you don't have organised thoughts or your thoughts are all over the place or you're thinking about too many things at once, that can affect you and affect your organisation in terms of time, in terms of what plans you have for the week with your children, or what plans you have at work or meeting deadlines. So I think definitely it starts off with having an organised mind, and there are many ways we can help us having an organised mind. I say having an organised mind, but it doesn't mean you have to have a list in your brain, and that's where lists
I do.
come in.
I have a mental list.
Do you have a mental list?
I do. I mentioned in previous shows how I love to do to-do lists that help me get through my days.
In your mind.
Yeah. So if I can't do them, write them down physically. Definitely, I'll have them mentally, because I think I can't function if I have some sort of list of, be it I've written it or be it in my mind. I have to have it. But like you said, I can't have those mental to-do lists without decluttering my mind from everything else, right?
Exactly, yeah, definitely. But that's really good, because a lot of people find it really difficult to have the list just mentally, because then you forget. So, I tend to be like the majority of the people where they have a list, a written list. Because I feel like even with in your mind, when it's drawn out on a piece of paper, it just kind of puts everything into perspective. And you can actually see what's going on.
You can see, and you get that sense of accomplishment when you're ticking things off. Whereas mentally, you don't feel the same.
Yeah, it's not just ticking things off. Like just an example of now, because we're in the summer holidays, like summer clubs, and I wanted to know which days the boys are going to a summer club, which days the girls are going to go, and which days I can have, because I wanted to kind of split my kids into kind of categories. Like I wanted to have a days for the boys, a day for the girls, a special day with this child, because they need attention in a certain aspects in life. And as much as I was going over it in my brain, it just wasn't like working out. I was like, which day's which? So until I put it down on a piece of paper and I wrote, this day this person's going to this club, and then this day I'm going to have that time with this person, until it made sense and I was able actually to put them in. So I don't know, I feel like when you have it there drawn in front of you, it just makes it that much clearer.
Yeah, definitely. And then how else do you think we can stay being organised once we've cleared our minds and we've written things down? What else can we do?
To be honest, I wasn't the best of organisers, but just before doing this show, I was, I like to do my research as well, because when I kind of, I wouldn't say I'll give advice, but when I'm going to be talking in front of people, I would, I want to kind of know what I'm talking about. So I actually went and asked a lot of mums, what are your, I called a few of my friends, or met up with a few friends who are working, and told them, what are your, what do you do to stay organised? How do you keep going with work, and, you've got children? And I picked up a lot of really
share.
I picked up a lot of good things that I hadn't thought about. So things as simple as having deliveries. So they write down the dates that they're expecting a delivery. They write down the days that their kids need to give in a certain piece of homework. Because especially with working moms, sometimes you forget, or you just kind of slips
So having set days for certain activities or certain
It's not
events.
just about set days, but there's nothing will jump out at you, nothing will surprise you. So on this day you have this delivery coming,
and everyone's expecting
so you're prepared.
it.
So if you're not going to be home, you're going to be prepared that if you have the app, your phone's going to ring. To make sure that your phone's next to you, so you can tell them, the person who's delivering where to give them instructions, or to kind of maybe speak to your neighbour and tell them that I'm expecting something. Please pick it up. I'm going to be at work. And again, things like homework when it's due. So you prepare yourself a few days in advance, because on that day your child has this.
So pre-planning,
very important. Having those no surprises jumping at you really helps, because we always I always say that have control over the things that you can control.
Yeah.
And then the things that you can't control, it's easier when things that you can't control pop up. You have a bit more mental space.
Yeah.
You have a bit more time for those things.
Yeah.
Because
everything
else is in control, it's in place, and it's been taken care of.
Yeah,
so you've got that time. Whereas if everything is such a mess and things are coming out from nowhere, and suddenly on a Wednesday you have the delivery, you have the groceries coming, you have your child's homework, and that's when you fall apart.
Definitely.
But when you know that's out of
so
the way,
spacing it out is important, isn't it?
Spacing it out and just being prepared for it.
Yeah.
You know that's coming. You know this is happening today.
Yeah.
So when you know something is happening, you're mentally prepared for it.
That's true.
And that's when you see people sometimes falling apart. Oh my God, I'm having the worst day ever. It's because everything happened at once.
They weren't prepared for it.
They weren't prepared for it. But prep is the key to being organised, I guess.
No, definitely, that makes sense.
How about you?
Yeah, no, same sort of thing. For me, it's having set days for certain things. So we know on this day you've got a Quran lesson, or you've got an Arabic tutor lesson, or you've got, something. And for me, in my mind,
having set days.
Yes, set days are really important because the family knows what's happening, and no one needs to ask anyone what we're doing at this time, what we're doing on this day. It's planned. It's in place.
Pre-planned.
Exactly. So, kind of, for me personally, if I know I've got these certain commitments on these particular days, I don't plan anything else. So like you said, when there's other things, because we do in life, there's going to be lots of things that we haven't, prepared for. You'll get a call from your mum or a call from your friend, to schedule an outing or something. So then for me, then that's fine. It's if something crops up, that's fine. But I know from this time to this time, I'm unavailable, for example.
Yeah. Or you can just, book someone else in to help you out in terms of like dropping off or things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing. And another thing to being organised, I guess, is to never leave things undone. I read a quote, it really did hit me hard. It's, never leave anything unfinished. If you start something, always finish it off. If you have a mental project, whether it's a mental project, whether it's a physical project, don't start a new project, leave something unfinished or undone, and then move on to the next thing. Always try and aim to finish what you have.
Yeah, because if you don't finish
in mind,
you've not accomplished anything.
No. And then a lot of people, they give up. Do not give up.
And to be honest, it's what we teach our kids, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Don't start something unless you finish it.
Yeah. Compartmentalize things. So you finish this, and then, you might have something new that you want to do, but tell yourself, I'm going to finish this, and I'm going to free my mind for this next project or this next thing I want to do or this next thing I want to embark on. Because having that free mind lets things happen better, happen easier, happen even quicker. Because the worst thing that you want to do to yourself is stress yourself out, do too much, tire yourself out, because at the end of the day, you want to save your energy to creating a happy home, to creating a fulfilled family. So you don't want to waste too much energy in thinking about all the things that are undone and all the things that you need to be doing, but then you don't have time to be doing them. So try and free, your mind, free your diary, even in the to-do lists. Try not to do too much.
Yeah.
In the to-do list, try and have only what's important. Do only what is needed. Because as I said before, done is better than perfect. As long as you have what needs to be done, you don't need to be perfect, because your idea of perfect is different to my idea of perfect. So try and change your standards, okay? The perfection that you might have in your mind, the grass is always greener on the other side. Once you reach that and you tire yourself out, are you going to stop at that, or are you going to always want to go further? You're always going to push yourself further. So, done is better than perfect. Give yourself grace. Give yourself, reward yourself for what you have done, and give yourself grace. And just, do what you're doing. We're doing as much as we can. And I'm sure all mums are doing a great job.
I totally agree with you about the whole finish something once you've started, because for me personally, I try, and you said, prioritize, don't put too much on your to-do list. I have every day my top 3 things, I wake up in the morning, me and my husband discuss what was priority today, X, Y, Z. These things have to happen.
To be done.
Yeah, have to happen. Everything else, great, it's a bonus, right? But for me as well, sometimes what happens is I've got a side business, an Instagram business on the side, and I'll get a last minute order, right? So if I'm in the middle of my ABC
priorities,
list, I have to stop. Because then I've got a last minute order, someone wants something done for the next day or 2 days later, or I need to check I've got the right stock and order things. It happens, right? I have to stop what I'm doing to attend something more urgent.
But
you're
anticipating that, aren't you? So you...
In the back of my mind, yes.
Yes.
Right? Yeah, okay. So that kind of, makes eases the situation slightly. But at the same time, it does stress me out, because I just think, oh my God, I need to now quickly rush the order so that I can then go back to my list and what I need to do and the priorities of my life that particular day. And that's why it's important, I think, for when people do their priority list or what they want to achieve in that day, to kind of think, the way I like to think is, I have 0 time today. Right? So don't set yourself, for example, big tasks for that day. Set yourself 3 small tasks, or 1 big task and 2 small tasks. Never 3 large tasks.
That's really good, what you mentioned about the priority list, because you can have a priority list where things that these have to be done, and then if anything else happens in between, and then the rest of the things that you want to have done and they don't get done, it's okay, because you've done something else that you know has cropped up, and these things can be done the next day or the next week, and you know, but you still want them done. It's just that they're not urgent and they're not priority.
Exactly.
And if you don't get them done, you're not going to kind of beat yourself up about it. It's not going to affect your family or anything like that.
No. 100%.
That's really interesting, actually. So you kind of you set yourself goals of what you want to reach at the end of the day, or is it at the end of the week? I
think for me, you have to do what works for you. So for me, I have my daily list. Definitely that's what works for me, because I have a section for, you know, minimum housework that's required, a section for minimum normal day job requirements, a section for Instagram business requirements. I have just different I've split my life into sections, if you like, throughout the day, and that's how I prioritize things. Just have small chunks to make sure I can tick these off and accomplish things throughout the day. But they're mini goals, if you like, mini goal sets for the day. That's how I like to do things.
And I think personally, in terms of goals, I probably have more weekly goals than daily goals. With daily things, we'll talk about it more, after the break, about something called a habit tracker. But we'll discuss that afterwards, because that's kind of a discussion on its own about being organised. But in terms of goals, like I said, I have like weekly goals, monthly goals, things like that, because daily goals can be a bit
burdensome. Scary.
Scary.
It's whatever works for the person, to be honest. No, definitely. But this is the thing: is daily goals can lead on to the next day and the next day. So it's knowing kind of what works for you, definitely. So let's see what Isra has to say about goal setting.
So for me, goal setting is almost a mixture between an art and a science. A science because there are so many studies and techniques that have been proved to make that whole journey of goal setting so much more achievable. So many of us might have come across setting a SMART goal, which is almost the building blocks to goal setting. It's really important to set a goal that's specific, really specific, measurable, that's achievable, that's realistic, and that's time-bound. Once we've actually done that, we can then look at other strategies that really help us to make that journey so much more fulfilling and easier as well. First of all, I'd like to kind of work on maybe creating a mind shift change on how we look at goal setting, because our culture and our upbringing may have led us to believe that actually it's the value of goal setting is the end result of the milestone that we achieve, whether it's our degree or a specific income that we get or the grades that we achieve. But actually, when we create a shift, while that's important, but the journey towards that goal is probably the more valuable aspect of what determines who we are as a person. And once we start to tune into the journey towards that goal, we actually find that people become happier, more confident, and more fulfilled in their goal setting process. So I love a quote as well in Atomic Habits, where he says, you don't rise to the level of your goals, but you fall to the level of your systems. And what he means by systems is those daily habits or strategies that you create for yourself to make that journey of goal setting so much easier. For example, the time that you wake up, what you do during your day, creating a list of things to do. So it's that journey that really starts to determine who you are creating as a person, rather than just the goal that you're achieving. Other steps that I would say relate more to the art of goal setting, that's probably more unique to you and looks at more the inner self, is to look at certain steps. For example, number 1, to consider your belief behind that goal. And I've seen so many clients that come to me, and when I kind of talk to them, I realize that they either don't believe they can achieve that goal or they don't deserve that goal. So I would say, start by saying to yourself, I believe that I can achieve it, I believe that I deserve it. And what you do is you start to manifest that journey towards your goal, and it makes it so much more realistic and doable and achievable as well. The second thing I would say is attach the goals that you set for yourself, even if they're small goals or big goals, to a really big purpose. Really consider that big why that drives you. What's the emotion that you want to get? What's the service that you want to give? And make that purpose or that why really, really big. And this is a really crucial point, because if our why isn't big enough, we get halted by our limiting beliefs or our fears, and that really stops us from achieving our goals. But if our why and our purpose is so much bigger than me, then it becomes less about me and it becomes more about the service that I'm giving to others. So connect that every goal that you set to that big why, and maybe create an umbrella word or a theme word that gives you that purpose or that feeling towards that purpose, and attach it to every goal that you set for yourself and anchor it to those goals. So this is kind of a second step that I would say is really, really important in goal setting. The third thing I would say is start to begin to brainstorm. Brainstorm, just a really simple technique, write a list of things to do, of what steps are serving you, what things are serving you in your day-to-day life that helps you towards your goals, and what's not serving you. And start to do those more and get rid of or stop doing the things that are not serving you. And that leads me then to the next step, which is making that big decision. And this is so vital, by the way, deciding to do something or deciding not to do something anymore. And the verse in the Quran that says, فَإِذَا عَزَمْتَ فَتَوَكَّلْ, that azima is that big decision. That's almost down to me doing that. And then the tawakkul, that reliance then on Allah, is on Him. So almost there's two parts. There's part that's attached to me, there's a part that's attached to Allah. And that makes that, again, goal-setting journey so much more fulfilling as well. Because I'm not alone in that journey. The next thing I would say is really create that vision really clear in your mind. Maybe through a story, you write a full story of what you want to achieve, or a picture, or even a vision board of what you want to achieve. Make that crystal clear. The more clarity you have of your vision, the easier that journey will be. But then what you want to do once you've created that is detach yourself from that end vision and start to focus in on the process of how I achieve that. That really helps to reduce the anxiety or stress towards that end result. And then what you want to do is start planning towards that process. What do I need to do on a day-to-day basis? Maybe create a list of things to do and start taking them off. And then review those and reflect on what's working and what's not working. The final thing that I would say is to really help you to sustain those goal setting is to have maybe an accountability buddy, somebody that's by your side, that knows your goal, knows your value system, and then you can hold each other accountable in your goals. So I hope all these techniques are useful and you go and smash every single goal that you set for yourself.
Okay, Raghad, I'd love to hear more about this habit tracker that you just mentioned earlier. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, this is like a really interesting life hack I've kind of taught myself. I came across it on the internet a few years ago, and it really grabbed my attention because, as you know, like doing things and being on top of things at home can be a bit like tedious, can be boring. Sometimes you say, I'll just do that tomorrow, you leave things the next day. From the smallest thing as washing dishes and laundry to the biggest tasks of like trying to finish a book or kind of finish something at work or even homework with the children. Yeah. So a habit tracker is something that you kind of write down the things that you want to do on a daily basis. Things that need to be done before you go to bed.
Okay.
And then things that you do often and every day, at the beginning, like I said, seem tedious and you don't want to do them, and you want to give up sometimes. It says, I can't do this every day. But actually it becomes a habit. When you do something for a long time, or when you do something for long enough, and that's why they say that 40 days is a kind of a key number in Islam.
It becomes your routine after 40 days.
It becomes your routine. It becomes like second nature to you.
Yeah.
So a habit tracker is like, you have a list of all the things that need to be done on a certain day. Like you want to get in your, make sure that before you go to bed, you have loaded the dishwasher, or before you go to bed, you've done if you're into exercise, you've done your exercise that day, and you tick that off. And then at the end of the week, it's the same thing. So it's a list that stays the same throughout the week. And every week you go back and you look at yourself, you look at your achievements. How many of these things on that list have you done each day? And you can kind of track your habits as well through that, because you can see which days you've done really well, you managed to tick off everything, and which days were really bad. And then you look at it and see the days that you haven't done as many things. You can go back and think, ask yourself why that is. What has stopped you from doing as much. Maybe it's something that, maybe it's a social event or something that you can, you can tell yourself that's something I don't need because it's going to affect me the next day. And there's a lot of things that when you leave till the next day, it kind of affects you the next day as well.
Yeah.
Like a lot of things, like, I don't know, this is a simple example of like laundry. If you don't do it for one day, the next day it's going to pile up and it's going to add up more. You're going to have to do an extra job the next day. So it kind of, you can cheer yourself on and say, you know what, if I do this today, tomorrow I'm going to have one less thing to do.
Yeah.
And I feel like that really helps. And like I said, it's called a habit tracker because it's something that you do on a daily basis. And it turns into your habit. It's something that you want to make a habit out of.
Yeah.
If you want to make a habit out of doing 10 minutes exercise before you go to bed, then that will be your habit. If you do it for 40 days, that will be. Then your body will just be so used to doing this that if you don't do it, it's going to just feel really strange. Or if you want to add an hour of walking a day, and it's going to be part of your habit tracker, then you know what? It'll be part of your lifestyle. Yeah. So I feel like that really helps.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I feel like they're connected a bit to kind of how we feel and our emotions, because you just mentioned something simple like loading the dishwasher.
Yeah.
How annoying is it if you come in the morning and you haven't loaded the dishwasher the night before? It annoys you and you just think, right, I'm definitely loading it tonight. That's my habit. I have to do this every day.
Yeah. No, and you just think to yourself sometimes, I'm too tired. I want to go to sleep right now. But when you know that you've got that habit tracker and you know that if you have to do it today, it's not about just having it has to be done. If I do it today, it's going to be one less thing for me tomorrow. And it might seem hard at the beginning, but you know what? It's going to be easier later on because you have to look at the longer, the big picture. Things are always hard when you're practicing, but then when it becomes a habit, then it's going to be second nature. And I always, I've heard it before. If you're 1% better every day, then in 1 year,
time in the long run,
1 year, then you're going to be 100% better. Yeah. So it's hard in the beginning. You push yourself, you give yourself an incentive, and you just go for it.
Okay.
And I think that really, really helps.
That's great. I think a lot of people probably have something like this. They incorporate habits within their daily lifetime, but it's nice to think of it as a habit tracker and actually mentally be aware of these things as well. That's really nice.
I think you can download them online.
So in terms of time-saving hacks, what things do you have to do that will save you time in the long run?
For example, in terms of cooking, let's just go for cooking because that's one of the things that can be the most time-consuming, and a lot of people do end up, having takeaways, things like that, which is nothing wrong with at all.
No,
but, it's just not as healthy, even just for us, not just about it's not just about the children, but even for us women, eating takeaways every day is not ideal, is it? So time-saving hacks would be like, if you have, I would say the weekend, but sometimes, some people want to enjoy their weekends and spend the time with family and extended family. So if you have put in 2 hours a week, whether it's in the weekend or during the week, just to food prep. Yeah. Food prep is the biggest time saver in the world. Yeah. So it's just simple things like chopping up the veggies, washing the veggies, chopping them up and putting them in the fridge, and chopping up the onions, getting all the if you're a big user of the greens, washing them, picking them, putting them in the fridge, and when you want to cook, it's so easy just to put everything together and get it done easily. Even things like chicken, when you buy it, before you want to freeze it, if you want to marinate it, clean it, remove the skin, whatever you like to do to it. Do it and then put it in the freezer. So in the morning when you want, you're going to cook this tonight, you just have to take it out, you're back and it's ready. You just have to cook it and it makes it so easy. Even peeling potatoes on that, you've got 2 hours, you give yourself 2 hours. I am going to prep everything for that week. Yeah. And then during the week, you just have to throw everything in and it gets done. Literally, it will take about half an hour to cook something.
Yeah, that's amazing.
When everything is prepped. But then when you're not prepped, by the time you wash it and you chop it, and then you're tired by the time you just start cooking, to be honest.
Yeah, it's true.
And you come back from work tired anyway. Yeah. So it really does help.
I agree. I think that's a good hack to have. Not that I've done it.
No, but know what? It's literally 2 hours, and also the kitchen stays cleaner during the week as well throughout the week, because you're not
there's no rubbish of the veggies and stuff.
Everything is in the fridge. It's just a matter of taking it out and popping it into the oven or into the pot or something like that. And another life-saving hack that I found really it's saved a lot of my time and a lot of my saved my life, in fact, is if you make a casserole, whether it's something, a dish like a lasagna or anything, I always make double
to freeze.
Yeah, so 'cause, again, these things take a long time to prep. Yeah. these little, pies and lasagnas and things like that. So again, you make one for the day, and then you put one away. So there's a lot of days that, we all have those days when we just haven't prepped and we haven't done the shopping, or just, you're just a bit tired, or you're late at work, or you've got a club going on or something like that. Then you know that there's a couple of dishes at home. It's a bit like having a takeaway, but homemade healthy takeaway, that's what I call it. Just take it out of the oven, out of the freezer, and stick it in the oven, and that's it. Your dinner's done for the day.
See, Sumaya mentioned on a previous show that she's a fan of freezing food.
I love it. Yeah.
I haven't reached that stage yet.
But actually it's so easy.
It's very easy, but I think what happens with me is I do bulk cook quite a lot. So I do like to, what saves me time and what helps me a lot is I cook a lot of dishes and hoping that they'll last us 2-3 days. That's what I try and do. So that I only have to worry maybe twice, 3 times a week about cooking.
So what, do you cook it and then you leave it in the fridge?
Yes, I leave it in the fridge, properly sealed, and we don't reheat things only once, and then that's it. So I said to Sumaya on a previous show that actually I don't get a chance to freeze things because the food's usually finished, which is a good thing, right? Because it gets eaten, which is fine. But I definitely like your idea about
that
pre-chopping and pre doing things. It was what works.
I think you do a bit of both. It was, you've got the freezer things, and you've got the things in the fridge, and you've got the pre-chopped things. And that's, that can work. But I personally, that's really good for me. Personally, I find cooking so many dishes in one day so tiring. Like I would feel exhausted by the end of it.
No, to be honest, me and my husband went through a routine once where every Sunday, you said set a time aside 2 hours for prepping things. But actually what we did every Sunday is for 2 hours we would cook for the week. So we would cook, stews and rice and lasagnas or anything just to last us a week. And it did work well for quite a while, but then I think slowly, if you don't keep things into a habit, like you said earlier, it dies out. But I think as well, because Sundays we just wanted to enjoy it, we just wanted to relax. We just wanted,
Ideally, on paper, it looks good to say, on Sundays to do everything. But actually, do you really want to be, cooking on Sundays? Because usually, I don't know, especially now that the lockdown is over. Before, Sundays were really actually quite a free day, isn't it? You actually have a lot of time to do this prep. But now, with the socializing coming back in and things like that, I feel like Sundays can be a bit tricky as well. But whatever works for you, as long as you're prepared, you're prepped. Try and keep the kitchen as clean as possible throughout the week, because cleaning does take a lot of time. And because we're talking about organisation, that's why I wanted to come
in its place.
I wanted to come back to cleaning to do with organisation, because you know what, a cluttered home is a cluttered mind, a clean home is a clean mind, like what you said. So you don't want to spend too much time cleaning, or if you don't want to clean, you don't want to spend your week in a messy kitchen. So it also helps in that sense. You keep it all clean, you keep all your your knives and everything, because when you're prepping, you have lots of knives and lots of things coming out. So that all stays in place and everything's clean.
Definitely.
Like I said, you just have to take everything out.
And there's one thing that I go on about with my family is make sure everything, if you're going to use something, put it back in its place, because the biggest time wasting thing that bugs me is when you've opened the drawer to try and get something out and it's not in its place, and then you spend so much time looking for it. And something simple as your car keys, there's a place that we've designated for keys. And if you don't put the car keys back after you come out, honestly, you're in trouble in my house if you don't put it back.
It's those little things, isn't it? Because like I said, you want
everything
to free your mind.
Place.
Your mind needs to be organised, and you have to put those rules in place. And again, it's about going back to habits. You're going to say, some people are going to say, no, but my children can't do that. They don't put things back in their place. But no, if you go on about it for 40 days, 40 days is my magic number. You go on about it for 40 days, they will get used to it. Then they will automatically, they pick up a pair of scissors, they'll use it, they'll put it back.
Yeah, no, exactly.
You just have to believe in yourself, believe in your children, and believe in the number 40.
That's a great one.
So I think that's it for our hacks, isn't it? Never leave anything unfinished. Habits. Try and get your habits in check. If they seem hard at the beginning, just do them for 40 days. They become second nature. And teach your children as well. It's not just about you. You don't want to be the sole person doing everything at home. We're a team. It's a team. A family is a team. So you all do it together, and inshallah, you all have organised minds and organised homes.
See you next time at Mums at Work. Ma'a salama.